So you're watching this video because you're trying to understand why it is that you are invisible to women. You're probably wondering why it is that the women that you're attracted to are never attracted to you, right? Or maybe it is that you keep attracting the women that you don't want and you'd really love to attract the women you do want. Or maybe it's that you are listening to this because the woman that you have a crush on, right, hasn't paid you any attention at all. Or you're finding that consistently through dating apps and through your dating life, you're just not meeting women at all, as if you're moving through the world like a ghost, like you are literally invisible. And here I'm going to tell you exactly why this is happening, right? I work with hundreds of men who are in their 30s and 40s that are really trying to get to be more attractive, to create deep and meaningful relationships. And many of those men have gone on to have children, get into relationships, get married, and have fantastic sex lives. So the 8 reasons, I'm going to jump straight into it, right? The first one is, I see this so often. Men, you lack these dating skills, right, to create chemistry and attraction. Oh, you're probably thinking, yeah, what I need to create chemistry attraction is money, right? Or I need to be really good looking. And that's not the answer. Those things can help, right? But there are actually more important traits that you probably see, you don't notice, that men with money and good looks actually have, because you are not trained to look for them because you don't have them. I.e., you can't see those traits because you don't know what they look like. So they just pass through you completely. They go over your head, as they say, right? And ultimately, what it is some of these little traits that I talk about inside a framework that I work with my clients, which is this idea that there's these 2 sides for a man to be attractive. A man to be attractive in relationally, right, when it comes to dating and relationships, but also to be a magnetic to the things that he wants in his life. Meaning the career, the adventure, the type of man he wants to be, right? And there's one of the aspects is grounded safety, which I'll touch on in the next point. And the other thing is this electric edge. And inside this electric edge, this is the stuff that's like, I call it like the icing and topping on a cake, right? It's things like charisma, playfulness, risk-taking, attuned sexuality, like even understanding of women, leadership, like all these sorts of aspects that we have to cultivate as men. Everyone has to cultivate these, right? All the leaders you see who are creating the businesses and so forth, they have these traits, right? Maybe not so much the attuned sexuality for sure. But if you want to create more chemistry and attraction, these are the things you have to cultivate, right? And reading books doesn't do it. You need to practice, right? And I say this to men because they're like, oh, let me read a book, let me watch a podcast. But if you don't take the action in real life, it never happens. Number 2, right? You lack these mature skills, mature communication skills and emotional intelligence. So this falls under the other point I was saying, right? The grounded safety. So many men lack the ability to create safety in the nervous system, the energy, the feeling of safety from them to a woman around them, right? So when I say safety, I don't mean she thinks you're going to kill her, but she doesn't feel safe that you have the emotional capacity and the communication skills to make her feel safe, to make her feel like she can be herself in the space, that you're not trying to get something from her, right? Something I see with so many men is we say, if someone says, are you emotionally intelligent? Most men will go, yes. And the truth is, a very small slice of men are actually emotionally intelligent. I think what we're thinking when we hear emotional intelligence is very much that we are thinking our emotions, that we have lots of thoughts about emotions. But actually, emotional intelligence is about being able to feel this in the body, feeling, oh, I'm feeling something. I have desires, I have wants, being able to regulate those feelings while also being attuned, sometimes in the same very moment, to the feelings of the women we're with or the people around us. And you have to get this balance right to be emotionally intelligent, where you're not super only indexed on your own feelings and you're just like in your own anxiety and you're oblivious to the people around you, or you're so reactive to the people around you, the environments and so forth, that you probably also experience loads of anxiety as well, that you're in the middle and are grounded and are calm and just easeful with being you, right? That's one of the parts of it. And one of the things here is that women do not feel safe around men who are just all up in their own feelings, right? That's not emotional intelligence, right? Because if they're in a moment with you, they don't know what you're going to do. They can't trust that you're going to respond to their cues. right? And their responses, because you are consumed in your self-centered emotions, right? And on the flip side, if you're completely reactive to her, she can't trust you, because in that same moment, you're so over-indexed on her feelings and what's happening, you're not actually attuned to what's happening. You're attuned to the story about what's happening. And this is why this middle place of groundedness is so beautiful, right? Because you notice what she's feeling and go, oh, is that actually, am I reading this right? Am I just over attuned? No, actually, I see a second sign to show that she doesn't feel that comfortable with my presence. I'm going to take a small step back, right? Whereas too many men, they're like, oh, this woman's not comfortable with my presence, I'm going to run away, right? Or you don't have the groundedness to go, oh, it's okay, this is going to pass in a second. Number 3, right? This is the easiest one we can change. You don't look after your body. You don't look after your style. Too many men are overweight, right? Or way out of shape. So they're really break skinny, or they are just fat. You've just put on lots of weight. You're soft. You're blubbery, right? Now, this is the easiest thing to change, because you can go to a gym. There's gyms everywhere. They cost next to nothing, £20 a month, £30 a month. You can go and afford to do that. And it's not just the gym piece, right? The gym will give you the ability to tackle hard things, physical resilience, right? And physical resilience can translate into emotional resilience. It doesn't always, but it can do. It shows a level of dedication. It shows a level of effort that you can make, right? These are things you can signal to a woman to show that you are the sort of man, right, worthy of time, or that you look after yourself. And this comes into the style piece, right? If you're still dressing like you did pretty much when you were 19, right? You're buying shirts. When you go out to a bar or a club, you wear your kind of quote unquote best shirt, right? And a pair of jeans and a pair of shoes, right? This is very 2002 way of dressing. I know this because I was around in 2002, right? I see guys out in Ben Sherman shirts and a pair of jeans and the shirt tucked in. Now, it might look okay, smart, but it doesn't scream of style, of modern style, right? You might go in that same club and you see this dude and he's got like, he might even have like a nice, I don't know, man, like an oversized sweatshirt with a nice pair of baggy jeans and a nice pair of trainers. Or it could be something completely different. He's got a cardigan on with a t-shirt or blah, blah, blah. You're stuck in your kind of man-child style, right? And it's not attractive, because what it is that shows you don't have awareness for style and how it's changing in the world. I mean, you're not paying attention to the details of what looks good on other people and what can look good on you. You're just ignoring that. So that's how a woman will feel you're going to treat her as well. You're not going to care about the aesthetics of her life and the house that you're in together, right? Women think this far. Men, we think about 2 inches ahead of us, right? Women are thinking 3 years ahead, right? Because they need to, for the safety of themselves and their offspring, right? Number 4, I think I'm on 4 now, right? Your standard base emotional state is either anxious, fearful, or shut down, right? So many men are very unaware of their general emotional state that they are emitting constantly to the people around them. You've had this experience, maybe some of you, right? Where you meet someone, man, woman, adult, whatever, and just being in their energy, you feel uneasy. You're like, oh, this doesn't feel good being around this person. Like, oh, I don't know what it is, but I feel a bit jittery. I feel uncomfortable. What is it about this person, right? This is how you make people feel. Like, you're not giving off this calmness, this ease, this confidence, this comfort in being you, right? And a lot of this is to do with these unconscious stories and projections and patterns, right? That you're running through your mind constantly. You know, you're anxious about what's happening around you constantly. You're overthinking. You're afraid of what could happen because you're projecting to the future. You're shut down because you're probably afraid of what could happen, instead of trusting in the moment, trusting in life, right? And some of that comes, you have to do some deep inner work to just come with this like, oh yeah, whatever's going to happen, I can deal with. The next one, which 5, I think we're really mirroring through these. 5. This is for the guys who are on dating apps. Small segue. I got nothing against dating apps. My clients are on dating apps. They get really good results because we really do the things I'm about to talk to you about, right? And they also do in real life dating, meeting women, which is a really important thing, which is one of the things that most men who are visible are not doing. They're hiding behind dating apps. But 5. Shit dating profiles and pictures. I see this time and again. I see this constantly. we as men often are not very good with aesthetics, right? Another segue. I have very rarely met a photographer, an interior designer, an artist who does badly on dating apps. Very rarely, right? I've coached a few. Do you know why? Because they are attuned to aesthetics. They can look at a collection of photos, right? And they can be like, oh, what story does this tell? They can look at some text they need to write because they're guided in the arts. And they can go, oh, how do I want to talk about myself in a way that leaves someone feeling something? Most men, you do not have this skill. You don't cultivate this skill, right? So your dating profiles are boring, too literal, or too kiddie jokey, like joking like you're 17 or 7 years old, right? You don't have a blend of kind of maturity, depth, forward thinking, and playfulness and curiosity about the women. That's the problem, right? I see this so often. I see men's profiles and I see women's profiles, and men's profiles are consistently terrible. Women's profiles are only marginally better, but because men are generally what I call hungry, right? And they're not attuned to the sub-communications you need, it doesn't matter, you know. As we know, women swipe for like 5% of the men they see, men swipe for 20% of the men they see. This is how it goes, right? Number six, bright number. Most men overestimate their, what should I call it, dating and relationship value. They overestimate it. Yes, as a human being, you are intrinsically valuable, right? But as a partner, as a person to date, you need skills, character, traits, and values to make you more valuable, right? So men are often unaware that they lack skills and traits. Like I said about emotional intelligence, that's one of the most important ones to have. You know, if we put it on a spectrum of 0 to 100 to like, I don't know who the most emotionally intelligent man in the world is or person in the world is. You know, let's say Brene Brown, because I reckon she's probably up there with one of the most emotionally intelligent people in the world, right? Brene Brown. And you've got a 2-year-old child at the other end. I've got a 16-month-old, so, you know, he's not particularly emotionally intelligent. Most men would think that they would go in at like 80%. And I'm telling you, from the conversations I've had with hundreds of men, I would put them more 40%, right, on this age range. So you're closer to a 2-year-old child than you are to someone like Brene Brown, right? Because you lack, sometimes it's kindness, the communication, the humor, the self-awareness, knowing when to be direct, being able to feel the other person where they are, knowing if they're a bit nervous and how to respond to that. You lack a lot of these skills and it hurts your dating life time and time again. But you think you have the skills, so you're frustrated at why dating is not going better. Number six, sorry. I'm just checking. I have 8. I might have more than 8 here. You are unconsciously angry and resentful at women. This is really common. You're frustrated because dating is not going well, and you look at women and you're angry at them because you think that they must be messed up, that they're not choosing you. I see this really commonly with men. They're frustrated and they're angry, right? And you literally don't know why women don't want you, but it's this kind of vicious cycle, unfortunately, because you get more frustrated with men, and that energy of frustration, that energy of anger means you can be quick to internal frustration when you're rejected or passed up, and then you go straight to anger, rise in your body, makes women run away from you. The energy of that is very repulsive. Another one is you have this immature idea of kind of what attraction is. I speak to so many guys and they're like, oh, women want bad boys. And when you were probably like 14 to 21, that would appear to be true. I think that's very true for women who are young and or immature. And a lot of us men built our idea of what women want out of those years. But then we're getting into like our 30s and we still think like 30-year-old women want bad boys. They don't. They're not interested. Maybe they were when their brains were developing, just like you probably were attracted to women that weren't good for you. They're now interested in something way more, has more depth and interest, especially mature women who have matured out of immaturity, right? If you're still running after immature women, which a lot of men are, right? Under, women under kind of 21, they're likely to be immature. Not all of them, but they're likely to be more immature. They may likely be more attracted by immature things. But if you want to move into maturity to have an actual real relationship, then you want to start attracting more mature women. And everything I've told you, and I'm going to tell you after this, will help you with that. And the last point here, which I think is 8, is you are addicted to comfort and ease. The use of dating apps, what is it? Comfortable and easy. Because it's easier to swipe for 20 women on your dating app than it's to go out to your local bar, restaurant, club, street, and actually start talking to some women you don't know. Because the feeling of rejection feels much more intense if you walk up to a woman and go, hey, how are you? Yeah, I love you. I love the way you're dressed. Like, I'd love to get to know you. And she turns away and keeps walking. It feels worse than dating apps. But in fact, over time, the dating apps are worse. Right? I don't give you this, oh my God, if I speak to a woman, I'm going to get arrested for harassment. No, you're not. You're not going to. Unless you do it to 100 women on one street, then maybe you're guilty of harassment because that's harassing behavior. Or you keep going over the same woman, right? Women I speak to, mature women, are crying out for men to approach them. So what can you do to stop being invisible? I've given you some of this already, but I'm going to say it again here. You need to get yourself out of the house. We spend so much time at home. I spend way too much time at home. But you need to start getting out of the house and take social risks. What's the social risk? Going to environments where you don't know people or you know very few people, right? Whether that's communities, that's local clubs. And I don't necessarily mean clubs to go and party. I mean clubs and communities that are centered around ideas and concepts, and like run clubs. Or I saw someone going to something about the future of AI and how that relates to politics and marginalized groups. A friend of mine's really into films. He goes to kind of quite abstract and, artsy film bits and pieces. Sorry, I don't know much about it, right? But I see him going to stuff on Instagram all the time, rooms filled with hundreds of people that love film, that like are really into Tamil movies, or like, a particular way of dressing. So he meets like-minded people. So one of the things you have to do is leave the house, and you have to actually have some interests, right? And be willing to follow those. Next one, you need to expand your self-expression. Too many people's self-expression is dull, boring, monotone. So many guys I meet, monotone. You hear them talking, you're like, Jesus, I think I would rather listen to cats screeching because it's so boring. Right? You lack self-expression through words. You lack self-expression through the stories you tell. You lack self-expression through the way that you dress. This is making you invisible because you're like gray, just like gray wandering around, no one sees you. Next one, third point, purpose and meaning. Purpose and meaning is attractive. Men who live with purpose and meaning are attractive men. Simple as that, because they're passionate about the things they're doing. Right? They go in, they can talk to people about the thing they're doing in a way that lights themselves up and lights other people up, right? You add a little bonus in there if you're able to relate the thing you love to regular people. You can't, if you can only explain your love of Dungeons and Dragons to people who love Dungeons and Dragons, right? You have a problem because you have a communication problem. You can't communicate that to regular people. The next one, and I mentioned this before, get in shape. Go train, go run, create some vitality in the body, create some strength in the body, right? A strong body is good for you in the long term, right? A strong body subcommunicates like virility, right? Ultimately, that you look after yourself, this vessel you have to live with for the rest of your life. If you can't look after that, how are you going to look after a woman? How are you going to tend to her needs? How are you going to tend to your children's need if you can't be able to look after your own body? I feel like it just says so much, Next one is about dealing with your fears. This is when the work I do with people around, shadow work, inner child work, questions, understanding the patterns, the wounds, the mother, the father wound, how these things have created you as you are, and how you project those onto the world. Whenever I hear a man go, all women are, and whatever he says next, I'm like, you're wounded. You're not telling the truth. You're only seeing the world through one very small lens. Because I meet huge ranges of women. I meet women who, they just want to marry a man for money. They don't only want money, but they are, I would say high demand women, and they get to really, really choose. So they want a man that has money as well as the other things they want, right? They want to live a certain lifestyle. But I meet loads of women who really don't care that much. They might want a man who earns some money, not jobless, right? That has some ambition, But they want a man who is kind and caring and thoughtful, who looks after themselves and him. They can think about her, but also stand his ground and stand up for himself and lead, right? The next one here is about being curious about women. Now, this is a very interesting one because this is something that I did a lot in my 20s and 30s, but I just naturally was really curious about women, their experience. So I would just ask the women I was dating and seeing a lot about their lives, how it feels to be a woman, the struggles they have, you know, the sexual harassment, the rape, I've you know, the stories I've heard, because it gave me a real intimate understanding of women. So then when I was with other women, I was able to use that understanding. I could, you know, relate to their stories based on what I was told, but I could also have more empathy for them, right? You're replacing the anger that you might have and resentment with empathy, right? It goes a really long way. And the problem is too many men, their curiosity about women is coming from like these red pill dudes on the internet who, you know, I'm always questionable about how much women they've actually been with, you know, because, you know, yeah, some women are unhealed and are dysfunctional, and they not want to be treated badly. They don't want to be deep down being treated badly, but their patterns cause them to be gravitate towards what's unattractive. But there's enough women in the world who are on the healing journey. Yeah, they're doing the work. So they're starting to come out of those patterns, and they're rejecting men, which is really sad for a lot of you guys, right? They're rejecting men who aren't emotionally capable a lot of the time. And men who don't adhere to this next point, which is that you can lead yourself. There's nothing worse than a man-child, you know? A man who doesn't really know how to look after himself, whether that's physically, whether that's like food-wise, whether that's knows how to get a passport, knows how to like book things and get things sorted in the world. There's so many men who have been babied that, you know, they're like, oh, I need to post something. Like, how do I do that? Of course you know how to do that. You go, you know, whatever. Or I want to go to China. How do I sort that out? They don't know. You know, how do I get from A to B even? Oh, I don't know. You know, it's like being able to lead yourself as a man, become a man of depth because you're curious about the world and you can feel deeply, and you take action towards the things that you want, right? You move through fear, you cultivate courage, right? And move towards the things you want, right? And also you're able to kind of take in like width. So like you'll listen to this whole podcast, instead of just going, David, you're full of shit, all women just want men with money. You said it yourself. You're able to take in the whole episode and go, actually, David did say that, but he said a bunch of other things that I can do. I'm going to go and put my attention there, right? That's like the sort of leader you want to be around, sort of man a woman wants to be around. A woman doesn't want to be the sort of man that listens to wonderful content that would help him and guide him and find the one thing he disagrees with and put all his attention on that. Because when you do that, that's what you're going to do to women. That's what you're going to do in your conversations with your partners. You're going to ignore the good stuff and only pay attention to the bad stuff. And that's horrible to be with. It's horrible to be with a man like that, right? It's horrible to be with men who are super judgmental, right? I don't even spend my time with those people. Last point here, because I've gone way over what I was thinking. Learn and practice to be social. Learn and practice to be social. Like, if there's anything I have done in the last 25 years of my life is be social. Even if you're an introvert, even if you're shy, being social will benefit your life at every aspect, from your health, because we know that men's loneliness literally kills men. It's worse than smoking, like, is it 10, 20 cigarettes a day? And it will lead you to have a richer life. It will lead you to be more successful in the things you do when you're social and you know people, right? And you have friends. And being social is a practice. You know, sitting on the internet, watching YouTube videos isn't, well, it's a practice, but it's not always very useful if you don't do anything with it, right? You can watch hundreds of videos, but you've got to do something. You've got to get outside your house and do things. You know, I'd say from the things I've told you, you can change your life in 3 months. Depending where your state is, maybe if your life is really not where you want to be, you can change it in 6 months. But from the points that I've said here, if you get on these tomorrow, right, and go at them and really go at them, you could be living a very different life in 6 months' time. You could feel very different about yourself and your life in 6 months' time. And if you're a man and you want some support with that, I've got a new program coming up. It's called Relate. It's all about learning the real skills, the real values, and embodying them, not just hearing the information, embodying them, to create beautiful relationships, great sex, great passion, connection, all those things, right? All the things that I am really fucking good at doing and helping people get to, you know? Because if you don't deal with some of the underlying things, you don't deal with the underlying work, right? The fears, the worries, the anxieties, the assumptions, I could bring you 100 women and they'll all reject you. If you don't deal with the skills of communicating, creating playfulness, fun, charisma, again, I could bring you 100 women and they'll all reject you, right? So it's a multi-layered piece of work. So if you're interested in that, the program's going to start rolling out next year. There's a waitlist down below. People that are on the waitlist, you're going to get first dibs. You know, there's plenty of men that have already signed up. It's going to be a limited run for the first round that I take people in. So you don't want to miss out. So have yourself on the wait list and find out more. If you've enjoyed this episode, give me a little review, write a little comment below. What did you really take away? What 3 points you're going to take away and start to action today? All right. If you have any questions about what I said, also drop them in the comments as well. Ciao, ciao.